Hello everybody, welcome to the first midweek marketing mix. This is James Dearsley here. I'm joined with a very, very powerful panel in front of me. So we've just been discussing an agreement behind the scenes that I've been paying them with bitcoins, or as Ronnie Benson likes to call it, the chocolate coins with little gold wrappings around them. But we've got a great panel in here, and just to give you sort of a brief synopsis of what we're doing. This really is a show about getting the best guests talking about the most up-to-date material in terms of Google+, other social platforms, content marketing, SEO, video hangouts, video marketing, just to give you, probably as marketeers, I would guess, the best overview of what is new and exciting out there. We get thrown information all the time, and hopefully by getting the best guests in front of you here on the film strip, we can sort of bring it all together and give you the best information quickly. So that's the idea. Now, most of the guys on here and girls, sorry, Kath, we should know. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring them in one by one to talk about sort of their speciality and what they think is new. So what I thought we'd do is start off with Martin, if that's all right.
Hello. Yes, that's fine. You're just going to let me talk for...
I'm just going to let you talk. I'm just going to let you go into it and just talk about everything that you're doing in terms of what you think is new and exciting out there in terms of Google+, because I suppose that's where your expertise lies.
Okay, so new and exciting, I'm going to give you a website address. Google.com/business. This is the new... People thought I was going to say plusyourbusiness.com. I wasn't. And Google.com/business. The new thing that's happened is Google My Business. This is what's happened in the last, I can't even remember, it all goes into blur, within the last week. Around about a week ago. So Google are saying, firstly, you want to get your business online. You want to treat your Google Plus page as integral, really, to either connecting it back with your website or to your location on maps. And we're going to make it simple for you. If you've got a storefront, or if you're in a location, then you're going to have a page which is going to have a little icon, a little pin on the map, and also reviews that people can leave you reviews and have customers then engage, and you know who they are. You can go and interact with them, which is great. Or if you're a brand, that's the other type of page, then you don't have that physical location, but you still have a lot of the functionality, including a new insights dashboard, or certainly more functionality in relation to dashboard, and also the Google Plus function side of things, which means that you've got social and you've got the ability to see who's interacting with you. So if somebody adds you into Circles very much contacts, and if people add you in, you can go and have conversations with them. So this is going to be a very personal way for business to be done on the web. So if anyone's got any doubts about starting Google Plus or that Google Plus is going anywhere, it's really not. Go to google.com/business. Google are committed to Google Plus because Google Plus is Google. It's the next generation of Google. It's the future of Google. We're going to hear from David Amland soon about Google Semantic Search. I'm sure when you understand what is going on, you'll see that you want your business on there because you want it to be found, and you want to find the people who love what you do. And when you find those people, they'll start to spread the messages. And that's really where the social aspect of Google Plus comes in, because people can really amplify your content and help you get better search results and a greater reach on the content that you're putting out within the social aspect.
Just to bring that in, Martin.
Yeah. It's been a busy week.
Yeah, I'm just going to screen share this. This is what you've mentioned, hey? Google.com/business, right?
It is.
And this is the latest thing. And if I'm correct, they're just trying to make it all simple and bring it all together so that people who perhaps don't understand Google Plus as well as we all do, from a business perspective, can actually sort of hopefully make some sense of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, what we've got to realize is they've brought systems together. They've had maps, they've had Google Local, they've got Google Places, they've got Google Plus, and they've got the brand pages as well. And what they're trying to do is bring it all under one umbrella, which is pages are about business. So that's why it's a simple URL. It's Google My Business, and you get all of the advantages, and it just gets increasingly integrated. Also, with the analytics side, you can tie this back in to the analytics that you have on your website, and they can now be started seen in relation to your Google Plus activity. You can see the number of views, the amount of reach that your content is getting, what's getting engagement, and so on. So this is, it's going to make it simpler. You know, and this is what Google do, but it takes time, and I think that there have been challenges sometimes with the different types of pages and what people wanted to change them and so on. This is a simple approach to make it easier. So,
it's one of the things I think over the last couple of weeks I've had immense frustration when working with business clients in terms of when they have their a local sort of business pages set up, and then they have a Google Plus page, and there was this intense frustration for an awful long time of trying to merge the two together and getting intensely frustrated about it. And even from my side, sort of knowing the inside sort of how it works subtly, I noticed about a week and a half ago they've made that simpler in itself, in the sense of you can now, and there's a little default option where you can select another page to be your Google Plus business page, and it seems that they've now taken it to sort of this stage 2 in here on this My Business stuff. Is that fair to say?
I think it is fair to say. I think that one release came out just a couple of days before the Google My Business, and yeah, it's quite simply they're making it easier for people. So if people haven't already got on Google Plus, or haven't already, actually a better way of putting it is if they haven't already gone to google.com/business and check that out, then they want to do that as the first step. That's the first one. If they Google themselves and they find that they're on the map, they should still be able to claim their page. So that would be the next step. But the first thing is just go to google.com/business.
Just one.
I know Peter Lund was expecting me to say, oh, and Ray Hills plus your business. I didn't. See. Pushing Google all the time.
Yes, I saw this one from Ray as well, was it? So, yeah, I thought Martin was going to say plus your business.
I didn't say plusyourbusiness.com. I didn't. It's only because James said something before. I'm just messing with him.
You can plug away to your heart's content. Let's be honest, it's a fantastic community. We can't argue with it in the slightest, can we? But just one, I tell you, I've got a question on this because I'm not sure if I'm correct on it. But for those of you who have business pages and want to have everything all found, if I'm understanding, to get the most out of the knowledge graph per se, I think you've got to have sort of entries into Wikipedia in terms of having a description of your company. Which was one question. Is that true? Is there any other way to have a better description? And I'll bring that up on a screenshot in a second. But the other one is to show the stars. So i.e. get your Google reviews in there. Is there a minimum number to bring your stars up?
I don't know. Don't know. You expected more from them than that. I don't know. I'd say that there might be, but I don't know the algorithm for when that appears.
That's fine.
Kath, do you know?
Anyone?
You're muted, Kath. Muted.
Yeah, there you go. No, I don't think so. I don't think there's a limit. I think if you know one review and it'll show.
Yeah.
So Martin, there's a question here from Debbie Davis talking about independent contractors and freelancers, and I think the service area concept is useful for those that don't want to necessarily give a home address because they may work from their home. Do you want to touch briefly on the idea of the service area?
Yeah, are you sure they don't have to give their home address?
I believe you don't have to have it published. You can have a service area that says you cover this space or this environment.
You're based on location, so you have to put your address in. It's just it may not appear. Is that
yeah, it's just a little tricky for those of us that are digital service because entire world is our service environment, and so that's where.
Why the brand page thing? That's always the question: is should you be a brand page or are you servicing an area? Really, servicing an area should be you're a plumber, and you're reaching 30 miles around you. Not that you're in a physical location and that you're servicing the world. That really should be a brand page. I think it's my view on that. And that's kind of how it's always been. If I did this once, and if you end up and you find that it's been published and your email address, your location's been published, I actually had to delete a page. I had about 500 followers on it as well because I realized I didn't want my home address published. So, you know, be aware of that. Be careful with that choice.
Just bringing this in from Phil, and last week I've been able to sort out a lot of duplicate business pages. So, you know, it's certainly a far less frustrating process than before, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
It's a wonderful
And you've
thing.
got to realise how it's huge what they've done. You know, YouTube is a massive platform, and they've integrated that. So it now talks with Google Plus, and so all of the pages. You know, everything takes time. So I think we are a leap ahead in the last week. And Google Plus isn't going anywhere. This is the thing. So if people are waiting, I had somebody come through to me today going, I heard rumours that maybe it's kind of like, it's not going anywhere. The longer people leave, it's been 3 years already, the longer people leave it, the harder it will be when they really want to build up their following and relationships and so on. So.
And let's just bring on something which I mentioned earlier on about the, this is what I mean in terms of the knowledge graph and the publishership side. It's this point here, which is if you want to have more information on this, it looks as if from what I've investigated that this little bit of information is pulled from Wikipedia. And Nick Rank has very kindly suggested that it's this bit here, which I was mentioning about the stars. These guys, my old company, have got 4 Google reviews. Nick has kindly suggested that you need to have at least 5 reviews in order for the stars to show. Thanks, Nick.
Good, Nick.
Okay. Good, Nick. Thank you. Right, so look, this is quick and short, and the idea is to just get snapshots of what is new. So we're going to move on to the next one. So what I was going to suggest is, David, do you want to sort of lead us in the next round of what's new and exciting and sort of the SEO semantic world that you are arguably, pretty good.
Yes, certainly. And actually, I'm really excited about what's been happening over the last week and what Martin said, because essentially a lot of the things which happen across the SEO world right now have to do with structured data, which is a little bit complicated from a programming point of view, and a lot of new schema definitions are coming online. And everybody's asking now, what the heck is it? And do I need to know it in order to make any gains in search? And essentially, the structured data format is a layer of metadata which allows Google to understand your website content better and form a better understanding of who you are as an identity. And everything hinges on identity, and pretty much the business pages, google.com/my business, or business rather, that have come on are part of Google's effort or initiative to integrate things better in order to form a better identity. And why do we need an identity? Because essentially in search, as we go on in the months ahead and the years ahead, the ability to have a distinct digital identity is critical in terms of having your content and what you do as a business contextually come up in search. This is critical. If you can't establish who you are, what you do, where you do it, if you're a local business, and how you do it in terms of reviews, content, and sentiment mining and citations, then you will not come up in search. You know, you can have the best site in the world, you can make any kind of effort to push it, it won't simply rank the way it used to in the past, because all these things won't come together. So essentially, all this effort is an attempt by Google to create to gather the data that is necessary for forming a digital identity without having to implement the complexities of schema markup and structured data. And I think this is really exciting because it comes down in terms of business owners, it comes back down to what you do best. What you do best is do business, great. And what have you got to do with your marketing? Well, you've got to simplify it in terms of how you approach online, or rather clarify it in terms of your, how you do it, what you do, the reviews you get, the customer service you create, the content you create, your social media presence, your presence in Google+, Hangouts on Air, video, YouTube, all those things really need to be in place. And if they're not, then you're going to find anything which you do on the web becoming harder and harder in terms of surfacing, and you're going to get frustrated because you won't be found, and you'll be missing out, and it'll be down to that kind of fragmentation in your business. So this is really exciting, and I think we're now at the tipping point because things are coming together. It used to be that in the early days of semantic search, there were only very specific things you could do, but now you really need to address all of those things, and Google is moving very quickly.
This is being a bit of a, what's the word when you sort of argue a point on this? Is this a little bit of Google trying to monopolize search and everything
Well,
around? Because it seems, I mean, it does seem as if everything
Yeah.
that it's doing, it's dependent on the Google Plus stuff, it's dependent on the YouTube stuff, and
Yeah.
as companies, you're almost being held, the Google reviews and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. It's a bit of a monopoly thing.
Well, yes and no. I mean, anything which has to do, I mean, we're in a world of semantic search, whether we like it or not. And everything we see in terms of new technologies and apps which are coming online, they are what we call semantic apps. They require data which depends on connectivity and the inferences which derive from that connectivity in order to make sense. Now, Google has two options here. It can take the approach that, because it is behind W3C, the W3C consortium, I should say, rather, it can take the approach that it's up to us to implement structured data and try to help it to understand what's happening, or it can see that a lot of us want. I think at the moment there's only 25% of websites, of critical websites across the web that have implemented it. Therefore, it needs to step in. And also there's a question of human error, which creeps in, inconsistencies which arise because of that. So what Google is trying to do is it's trying to create a structured data index from the unstructured data of the web and scale that right across the entire web and continue to do so. Now, if it does that, of course, there's a huge benefit in terms of what it does, because it will have created a virtual monopoly. The semantic web really doesn't exist as a semantic web. It only exists in Google's servers. It is an index. So, the moment you step outside that index, the web becomes a little bit messier, a little bit noisier, and a little bit less consistent. So yeah, in a way, it is creating a virtual monopoly by providing a service which is relatively unique to what Google does. And it's by doing so, by having such a huge lead ahead of competitors, it's basically cutting out Bing, which is the only other search engine that's hoping to do it, and certainly it cut out Yahoo. So that leaves only 3 other companies which can hope to compete with it. One is Amazon, which is of a big concern to Google, simply because within the Amazon environment, there's a lot of e-commerce taking place. We use search to actually make purchases, and Amazon is a very strong competitor, because if it looks successfully in that environment, it is implementing smarter and smarter technologies to help us make those purchases in an easier way. Therefore, the question comes up, why do you need Google if you can just go into Amazon and make a purchase straight away? So Amazon is the main contender. The other one is Apple, which is trying to basically carve out its own data silo and keep Google out and keep all of its customers in there. And the third one, of course, is Facebook, which is trying to do almost the opposite of what Google is doing. Facebook has an environment, and it's trying to create all the different bits and pieces in it. It's got Instagram, it's got a messaging service now, it's got a chat service, it's got a video service, and it's trying to actually make them work. Google is usually, Google has the opposite. It had all the different pieces in place, and it's creating the unified environment through Google+. So basically, these two companies are heading towards the same space, but they're from opposite directions, and for the same reasons. So this is the picture as it's shaping up. Google certainly is way ahead of them, but we can't say that it will continue to be so. I mean, if it falters for any reason, its competitors are hot on its heels.
James, can I jump in with a question?
Mm.
I already did, so here we go. David.
Yeah.
Facebook does not have a search engine.
No. Well, Facebook made a mistake at the very beginning. It has a tremendous amount of data, but it never established any kind of disambiguation. This is really critical in search. So when you have two sides.
Disambiguation. No,
yeah, I'm going to explain that. I will explain that. If you say, for instance, my brother's a trained SEAL, okay, either he's a trained SEAL, the animal, possible, would not know, or he's a trained SEAL, the elite Marine service in the U.S. Army. And Google actually can establish that through a number of basically programming implementations that it has put in place from the very beginning. And they're far from perfect, but they work. Facebook never did that. So essentially, if you went to Facebook and you used search, it was a very poor experience, and it turned many people off. The recoding of Facebook is an attempt to actually catch up on this. In theory, they could, because they're sitting on a mother load of data, and all they have to do is get on and structure it. But here's the problem. In order to do this, you need quality engineers. And the engineering pool you can actually draw from is limited. So Google at the moment seems to have most engineers, therefore it has a competitive advantage, so it's actually moving faster. And this is the planes and pilots problem. You have two opposing teams. They can have, both of them the same number of planes, more or less. Planes are the same quality, but they haven't got enough pilots. So really the limiting quality here, or quantity, are the engineers, and Google seems to have the edge. So Facebook may never catch up.
I'll tell you what I think is interesting about Facebook, and this is 2 months old now, and Martin, you will know an awful lot about this as well, is their purchase of Oculus Rift. Mm-hmm. Because I think that was a very, very interesting and strategic move from Facebook to perhaps diversify. And Mark Zuckerberg has now sort of came out with a very famous quote at the time, which was, he's made a long-term bet on the future of augmented reality and virtual reality becoming a part of our everyday lives. And I am just wondering whether or not they're looking at a slight divergence of tactics in terms of Facebook becoming essentially a hub of everything. Because virtual reality is not just about gaming. Virtual reality will be about virtual meetings. It will be about meeting people in a virtual space, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, that's a strategy that they have. I mean, if we look at the two companies, if we look at Facebook and Google, Google had search, and then it increasingly acquired or developed a number of other products which stood alone pretty much. Facebook had Facebook, and it had very few products that actually stood within that environment, and certainly everything seemed to try failed. Therefore, the strategy of each company now is for Google to build an environment which will encompass all of its different and very successful and until recently fragmented products into one environment. And for Facebook, it's to acquire more and more and more successful products which it can integrate into its already established environment. The reason each company is doing it is the same. Basically, if you have customers who work within your environment, then they very reluctantly would leave that environment because it means leaving essentially their data behind, usually, their connections, sometimes even their identity. So it's quite a wrench to move and work differently. And that's why they're working so hard to establish it. But we are in an environment, we choose to be in that environment because it allows us to do things, and allows us to do those things through tools. And here Google has an advantage because it already has the tools in place. Facebook is trying to put them in place. And this is where the Oculus Rift purchase actually comes into its own, because essentially by buying that, and they paid an incredible price for it, they deprived any competitor from taking it. They acquired technology and teams which had developed it, and now they have the potential to actually act on it, and everybody else is now slightly behind the curve on that one.
But also, one of the pieces, the longer we're in an environment, like a Google or a Facebook environment, the longer we're signed in, the more likely we're giving free data about ourselves, which can then be harvested and then resold to marketers.
Yeah, there's two things. Certainly, we're providing data, and that data is harvested anyway. But what happens with it? I mean, if you're in Facebook, certainly that data is used to connect you to marketers, and we can say that they sell it within inverted commas. Actually, they do sell it because they make a monetary gain from it. Google doesn't actually sell it as such, but it uses it to refine a whole number of other services, like search, for instance, and that includes paid advertising, so they make money from it in a slightly different way. And Google also has successfully monetized specific products. I mean, if we look at, for instance, Google Drive, because so much it's integrated into everything we do. We store so many things on it anyway that you begin to buy extra space and pay, $1.99, I think, $1.99 per month for 100 gigabytes. And a lot of people are doing that, so it increasingly finds other avenues of monetization. And I think the very long-term prospect is that search itself is going to change so drastically that Google will no longer be able to rely on it for the bulk of its money. At the moment, it's 95% of the money they get is from advertising through search. So they're exploring other avenues. Yeah.
I think there's a couple of things here, just sort of concluding on this bit, because it's fascinating, and you get lots of bitcoins for your contribution, David. So what we've got, it's interesting, isn't it? We got Facebook have got Oculus, as Nazim has mentioned here. Amazon has drones.
Yep.
I think it's quite fun. You've also got, and I'm just going to try and just screen share this a second because I think I wrote this presentation recently about glass, and one of the big worries was glass has got an issue with looking at your right eyebrow all the time. And somebody showed me this one, which I just thought was funny, and I thought, Martin, you can probably share your experience on glass. I know you're a glass lover. But okay, look, thanks ever so much. What I just thought I'd just do is, there was a question, obviously, we had earlier on about the 5-star Google treatment on the reviews, and Nick has just posted this into the stream on the event page about, so from Mike Blumenthal about the 5-star, how you get that on your Google Plus Business page. So I just wanted to make a point of that. What I thought we'd do is Ronnie, I was going to bring you in, but before I was going to bring you in, I just wanted to bring this quote up from Peter Lund, because I think you deserve it, actually. We ought to give a shout out and some cheers to Ronnie Bincer. He's outnumbered by the Brit pack.
But he's an honorary Brit, isn't he?
So Ronnie Bincer, and for those of you who maybe don't know Ronnie, I would say Ronnie, much like with Martin and David as well, I equally include them in this. It's almost like they're a mentoring attitude to everything about Google Plus search and Hangouts particularly. So I'm really pleased that Ronnie can join us, and perhaps Ronnie, maybe you can just give us a little bit of an overview as what's been going on with the world of video and Hangouts and everything for the last while.
Last while, yes. And what while means yesterday or the last week or 2 weeks, we don't know. So here's what I can do, and this is kind of fun for me too. I came from a background of video SEO, so when the Hangout tool did its thing and started doing these ability to do what we're doing right now, these broadcasts, it was a clear positioning place for me to move to. This is how I eventually moved into the realm of becoming what's called the Hangout Helper. In the process of that, I was eventually invited, and this is probably the first time I'll say this publicly, I think, to an environment, and I've been given permission to say it, so that's why I'm doing it, that does testing. And so I've been involved with helping test the Hangout tool for a while, and so there's certain things that I know that I can't disclose, and other things that I do know that have been out, and we can talk about. So let me give you one little tiny tidbit that I can talk about that a lot of people have missed. And that is when we use these Hangouts, these video conferencing things, if you're brand new to it, you have to actually download a plugin and get that started, and you have to set up your YouTube account and all these things. This is a bit of a barrier to entry for a lot of people. And so Google is aware of this, and they're working on improving that. So one of the things that they've recently come out with, it's been a very quiet release, I'm just making it a little louder right now, is for the Chromebook people or the Chromebox people. They have the ability to do what's called WebRTC Hangouts. They don't need a plugin to allow Hangouts to work on the Chromebook. And at least 50%, if not more, by now, of all the Chromebook users have that capability. So that's rolling out very quietly and slowly, but it is something that is coming. And so the ability to get new people that are running into little barriers, some of these barriers are going to be taken away slowly as we go. So that's actually big news, but it's sort of nerdy and a lot of people don't realize it. Bottom line is, a lot of the things that happen with WebRTC, which is just a format where basically the browser does the work instead of the plugin doing the work, it's taking away some of the strain from your computer. And so as a result, some of the quality of the Hangouts is going to improve, as well as the barrier is lowered to the entry. So even though it doesn't sound like a big, huge deal, it actually is a big deal, and it will eventually roll out to be more and more available. So with that said, some of the more obvious things that have happened recently with Hangouts, especially Hangouts on Air, the broadcast things that we're doing right now, is they are now letting us see the public view count, whereas before, for a long, long time, we were not able to see how many viewers were actually watching a Hangout on Air, or how many did watch the show. Now, it may take about 72 hours for the live view count and the recorded view count, recorded meaning after the show's over, and then people start watching the video, for those numbers to start mixing and mashing and becoming a total synergistic whole. But within a 72-hour period, you're going to be able to see how many views Hangout on Air had, whereas before that was just hidden except if you were the owner of the Hangout on Air. So now public view counts are visible. And let's see, another thing that's relatively recent, it's for me because I'm on it every day, And the Hangout Mastery people, which I'll plug a little bit, they get to see and hear about some of the stuff as soon as it comes out. But not all the people keep up with it as much as I do. So let me point out something that is incredibly valuable that most people just aren't doing, is we have the ability to do a Hangout on Air event. And that's a tool that Google Plus gives us. You get there easily by choosing the Hangout menu on the left side and choosing Start a Hangout on Air. It's actually starting a Hangout on Air event. Normally, just like we're doing today right here, normally you'll do this in a public realm. You want the public to know about it. But a very powerful feature is if you don't invite the public and you just invite yourself or a small group of people, you are then creating what's called an unlisted Hangout on Air. And so as a result, you're able to maybe meet with people that you've scheduled and create activities or create a video where it's very collaborative. I can reach out to my friend David Ermeland across the ocean, and we can do something and create content that's done. It was, how do I get David into a studio with me? I start a Hangout on Air. And if I don't want the world to see it while we're live, we make it an unlisted one. And then once the video is ready, I decide it's good to go, then I can now have content that I can publish. So it's not just these live shows, even though I love the live shows, but the ability to use the Hangout on Air tool to create your own video content that's collaborative with people across the world, to me, is incredibly amazing. And that's the unlisted side of things. And then there's another layer, which we probably don't have time to go into. It's called the private side, where you can have a large company that has multiple offices all over the place, and you can actually be doing private broadcasting amongst your industry or amongst your company, and nobody else on the outside can see that. And then you can turn that into a training video later on if you wanted to, or just have it be in the archives for what the meeting was, so those that weren't able to participate live are able to see it later. And this is not even needing to be a Google Apps user. It's just any regular old Google Plus user. You have the ability to create private Hangout on Air broadcasts, which to me is a game changer. But I think a lot of people aren't aware of that yet.
Absolutely. I found the private ones really work well, especially when you're trying to work with a company that perhaps you're not in there totally yet, and you're trying to convince them that your company is the right one to go with. And saying to them and giving them the reassurance that you will do video conferencing and it will be recorded for their records as well as our records. I found that private stuff is a really helpful.
Yeah, in the Mastery Group, we just did a training session specifically for consultants. How do you use these tools to meet with your client, and as an added bonus or a unique sales proposition, you say, when we're done, I will give you a video of our session. You can watch this over and over again. In fact, it's going to be ready for you to watch within 5 minutes by the time we're done.
Absolutely. And Nazim, I've got to bring that one in. There you go. You're like that, Ronnie.
There it is. Thanks, Nazim. And this is, and let me bring back the point that you started with Peter mentioning that I'm the only American in the film strip right now. This is amazing, right? I mean, we can be anywhere in the world and be collaborating and bringing together thoughts and ideas and broadcasting this to the world. This still, it just still amazes me. I still have a sense of awe and wonder, even though I work with it every day. I think this is one of the best tools, not only for the broadcast capability, but for the ability to find like-minded individuals across the world and start collaborating and interacting and doing joint ventures with them. It's just amazing.
Absolutely. And can I just ask this question from Peter, who is a fellow Brit, in fact, just about your Chromebook point. So Chromebooks being quite lower powered CPU, does that change? Does it change when Vincent mentioned that Chromebooks will be good enough for 720?
You're still going to need a quad core, which I believe all Chromebooks do have. And so as a result, with the plug-in list, or let's just call it the WebRTC format for the Hangouts, it will allow the lower powered machines to have better quality because it's not relying on the machine to do quite as much work. The browser's doing a lot of it.
And if you need to know more about the Hangouts, I will have to say I'm going to bring in Zara's point here. They're all plants. There must be.
Yeah, they're not plants, but they are.
Technique you teach, isn't it, Ronnie? This is like number 37 on the list. Turn up to events that Ronnie's in. See nice things.
There you go. But they are current members of the Mastery, and I think they're getting good value out of it. So I'm glad that they are happy with what they're getting.
Ronnie, you're the best on Hangouts, so everybody should be listening to. I listen. You're the person I go to when I got questions about Hangouts.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can't argue with all that, can you?
Yeah, here as well.
Alrighty, let's move on. So the last person we're going to talk to, bring in for the last sort of 10-minute segment is Kath, another Brit. I like this. Now, Kath, I mean, to be fair to you, Kath, you are very much SEO and content sort of marketing orientated and an expert in all that as well. And I've asked Kath to come in here to talk about sort of, I suppose, social and other streams, if that's fair to say, and put some perspective on that.
Sorry, James, you froze for me just for a minute then.
I was saying how wonderful you are.
Oh, and I missed it. Typical. This is typical.
The universe is unfair.
Honestly, you should have. The things I was saying, Kath. Honestly, it was wonderful.
Oh no! See, I start off blushing. Oh, so good.
No, I'm just introducing it and just saying, look, you know, what have you got for us? What's new? What's exciting from your side, and all that sort of stuff.
All right, well, I'm not as experienced as all these guys on here, and I'm really honoured to be in here. So I have actually done a little bit more preparation. So I've got a bit of a screen share to share with you because I am on the topic of other social media. So, I mean, I am a fan of all social media, but I'm a Google Plus fangirl at the minute. So, so I've been checking around, and what I want to show you is... Let me see if I can do this. Start screen share. Okay, so I'm going to do this really quickly because there's some really fantastic stuff out there that I would highly recommend that people look at. And there's a bit of a theme running through all of this because I think it's really important that people are very conscious of their target audience when it comes to social media and what they're looking to try to achieve. So the theme running through all of these things that I'm going to recommend that people look into is to really take a step back and think about why they're doing social media, why they're using the channels they're using, who they're trying to target, what's the point of what they're doing, and most importantly, how they're going to measure whether it's successful or not. Otherwise, you're just throwing stuff out all over the place and you don't know whether it's going to work. So I'll start with recommending the Michael Stelzner's Social Media Marketing Industry Report, which is quite a quick read. It's got really useful information in there from a roundup of 2,800 marketers who've given their opinions on various networks, what they want to see coming up in the future, what they think will change, how much time they spend on various different platforms. And it really drills down into B2B activities, B2C activities, and hints in there at some concerns about Facebook, of course, and concerns that brands are perhaps not getting the kind of reach that they were getting, and maybe that their Facebook marketing isn't performing as well as it could be. I'll post up all the links for these in the comment stream, so don't worry about getting any of these details. Something else to look out for is Simply Measured did a report on the decline of engagement on Facebook. There's some really interesting statistics in there, and a lot of people have picked up on that data and written about it. And that kind of interpretation and opinion on it is really quite interesting to read about. Because I think everybody needs to be aware of their Facebook strategies and the things that are changing and how that might affect them moving forwards. And actually this one, I want to give a plug for this one because I love watching these digital marketing answer shows that Mark Trapagan and Eric Enge do because I think it's the guests they have on, but it's also the rapport they have together when they're chatting through and discussing whatever current issues there are. And I would recommend that people watch their show because they do talk about all the current things that are happening. And about 12 and a half minutes into this video, they have a discussion around that data that I mentioned in the earlier report, the Simply Measured report. And it's quite interesting hearing what they've got to say about what's happening at Facebook and what might happen in the future and what people ought to be aware of. But the common theme through all of this really is knowing what you want to achieve and measuring the effect of your efforts, because no matter what you're doing, there's no point in doing it if you don't know why you're doing it. It sounds obvious, but it's actually it's quite common for people to get excited about certain strategies and content and social media campaigns and kind of just go running in a bit blind. So next one is this one. This was absolutely fantastic. I've actually listened to it twice because it's just brilliant. And this is David's show, Social Media Today, and this was on the topic of social media analytics and ROI. And David had Lee Smallwood and Amon Johns on there, and I think it was John Dietrich. I hope I've got that pronunciation right, but John Dietrich put this meme together because it was just so much fun. It was absolutely packed with actionable suggestions, strategies and tactics of exactly what to do and how to do it. It's far too much for me to summarize here, and I would just say go and listen to it. You'll learn a heap and you'll have a really good laugh. But the one thing that I would say that Amon pulled out of there was make sure you ask, what does success look like? No matter what your social media channel, what does it look like? And then you know what your objectives are. And if you know what your objectives are, then you can measure them. So last one on here is this one. I really quite like this. This was on Social Media Examiner, which is a fantastic site for really actionable content about social media, all different channels. But this one had 3 simple ways to measure your social media results by Rick Mulready. And the second one there I thought was just so simple and also genius. It's create a rating system for your social engagement. So basically you take your objectives and you turn them into numeric goals. So for example, there's a difference in value between a +1, a comment and a reshare. And a reshare is much more valuable than a +1. So depending on what your objectives are, if you give each of those a weighting, a numeric weighting, and then you count up the actual results that you get from all of the different posting that you do across all of your different channels, you can then measure the success of what you're trying to achieve against those objectives, and you can learn from it and you can do it better next time. And that really is my summary. There is one other thing that I thought was really quite cute. I like, oh, there's an Americanism. I like that. The Data Never Sleeps. It's a little bit older. There was one they did originally in June 2012, and they updated it more recently in April 2014. So the one on the right is the most recent one. And I thought originally that they'd taken exactly the same stuff and updated it, and they haven't. Some things they've updated and some things are just completely different. But I thought it was just really interesting just how much social media across all sorts of different channels and platforms is just exploding everywhere. And so you have to be in the right places at the right time. But know your target audience, whether those are the people that you want to reach out to sell to, or people that you want to reach out to who are connectors, who are going to reshare your stuff and therefore get the eyeballs onto your stuff. Now how do I get back? I'm going to go here. Oh, you are still there. That's good. I just had an image that I might have been just talking to myself and everybody had gone because all I could see was my screen share. Okay, does that make sense? Is that helpful?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Stunned silence. It was. I saw that Data Never Sleeps thing. I'd seen it, and you sort of glimpsed at it, and then you find yourself 10 minutes later still going around the circle as you're still looking at all the data. It's a fascinating study. And Kath, you mentioned Kevin Shively there of Simply Measured. I'm just checking here. On the 9th of July, we're going to be talking to him. I think they're one of the best data analytics platforms out there, and he's going to give us a sort of a tour over Simply Measured and what they do, how they do it. Because it's one of the areas where I specialize in, and I just think there's a quote from a Dr. Peter Drucker, I think it is, who basically said, if you're not measuring it, how can you manage it? And so data analytics, especially social analytics, for me, is becoming more and more and more important. So, Kath, thanks for that. That was fantastic, and everybody's saying in the comment stream that great content shares, Kath, and all the links in there. That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
What's the preparation?
Sorry? No, it's 5 minutes.
Oh, it's worth those 5 minutes. Absolutely. Okay, what I was going to do is Phil. I hope you've had your fresh supply of cakes from Sue, and you've managed to get your seat down. So I hope that's been all right. And so I think we'll come into our final segment. Leo, thank you for waiting until the end. One of the ideas on this show is to have a special guest, as I mentioned at the start. Leo is, I think you're based out in Tel Aviv, if I'm correct. Leo,
yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a content creation site, and one of the what I think is one of the better ones out there. So Leo, why don't you give us a brief introduction into yourself and into the site?
Yeah. First of all, I'm pretty excited to be here, the first guest of the show. So thank you for having me. Also, Kate mentioned Social Media Examiner, and I'm happy to see it because I often also write there, and I also think it's a great source for social media content, so I also recommend it. Anyway, I'm one of the co-founders of Sway. Let me just put back the comment stream. I want to see if someone is asking. Okay. So if you haven't heard of it, it's a content recommendation platform for social media management. So basically what we do is analyzing your community, your social activities and their reactions, their engagement, to understand what your audience is interested in consuming. You all go over your Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn pages or profiles, and we measure what you share on a semantic level. So if you share an article about whatever, about your business, about something in your industry, and people react better to it, they like it, they comment on it, so we understand that those people are engaging with it, and they are interested in that sort of content. So that what we do now is match you with the best content from around the web for you to share with them again and again. And I would like to show it to you. If I will be able to do it, just let me know if it's okay. Just let me know if you see it.
It looks like it's coming.
Yeah. So this is it.
Yeah,
yes, we can see it. Go for it.
Perfect.
Great. So that's www.sway with the 2 Y's.co. I'm connecting with my Twitter now. I will show it to you just for a minute or two so you can get a sense of it. That's the platform. It's pretty simple. Divided into 2 major parts. Over here at the top, I don't know if you can read what it says, but it says topics matched for your audience. So once we analyze your community, your social networks, we understand what you're talking about, and you can see what's a little bit more stronger. So I talk a lot about Google and marketing and acquisition. I don't know if you can see it, but that's it. As well as New York Stock Exchange and stuff related to that. Also my trending sources. So we basically take both also from where you share, what you usually talked about, and then over here at the bottom, you can see all the articles, the recent articles from around the web, from all the major sites and best blogs out there, just content that's related to your audience. So it will be really, really easy for you to find content, to share it, and schedule it for the entire day or week with your followers, with your fans on social media. The idea is like saving you time, doing the hard work for you, for trying to understand. I think Kate also mentioned it, like measuring the engagement, what works better, like what kind of content is working better with my audience, with my community. So that's what we do for you. And then we can just like, here it is, you can share it. So I got some articles about startups and 5 SEO trends, pretty similar. I can go to the article and read it. I can share it from within the app, pretty simple. We also provide you with suggested handles to mention on Twitter, some hashtags to expand the reach. You can share it to all the networks, Facebook, LinkedIn too, Facebook pages, groups on LinkedIn, LinkedIn groups, and you can schedule it basically to any time you want. It's a free service for 3 social networks, for 1 social entity, I like to call it. So you can get just for your own personal profiles or maybe for your business. And if you want more accounts, you can subscribe to one of our premium plans Let me go back. Oh, yeah, there it is. So that's basically what we do. So you can just save you time when you're trying to interact and keeping your Twitter streams and Facebook active, and basically finding the best content to share, easily share with your audience. We also provide analytics, so you can measure clicks and reactions. We have a Chrome extension, so you can share any article you find around the web, and more cool stuff. And I really like you all to join and check it out. As I said, it says here on the bottom, I think, on my screen, yeah. It says sway.co, and if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer.
That's great, Leo. Look, thanks. That's ever so much for that. We're just going to say goodbye to Martin. I think Martin's off.
I've got to go. Thank you for hosting. Great, and lovely to see everyone, and thanks everyone for watching. And good to meet you, Leo. Sure. Catch you all soon. Take care.
Cheers, Martin.
Thanks.
Leo, no, that's a really great overview. Thank you ever so much for that. And just a sort of a point, I'll just blue box me. One of the things that I always appreciate is that you obviously set up email alerts, which will come to your email once a day, and you can go from there. And for those of you who are like myself, a lot on Google+, there's also obviously the links which you can then share from those articles which are generated as well. So you have the Google+ aspect if you need it. And so yeah, that's fantastic. Leo, really appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us. So that's
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Lovely. Now, from there, really, I mean, we're coming to the end of this, really, and I just wanted to sort of say thank you to everybody. And before we go, Leo, Ilana says, thank you, Leo, from Dubai. There we are. So you have some big thanks. And Ronnie, I've got to ask you this question with the follow-up that you've written as well, which is, have you gotten used to the UK accents yet?
Yeah. Yes, but I didn't know what Phil having cakes meant.
Phil having, I think you've just gone and prepared some cakes before the Hangouts to eat with his tea. You know, his pot of tea and a nice little cake to have.
Cakes, meaning what I might consider a cake, you think?
A fairy cake, yeah, like a cake.
Cake, okay. Well, you know, a biscuit, for example, is a cookie for me, and it's not a biscuit you eat with gravy. In the States, we eat. This is part of the semantic challenge, right, David?
Absolutely. But this is contextual, right? I mean, this is quite interesting. So it all sort of happens within context, which is changing. It's an ever-evolving equation. So yeah, I mean,
can you imagine how frustrating we are being to the semantic robot, if there is such a thing, when you and I and people that talk about biscuits are together and we mean different things when we say it.
Yeah. Yeah, it will be.
Then you've got French fries, which become freedom fries, so that totally changes.
I think that had a very short lifespan. I don't think that freedom fry thing really flew for very long.
But then, I mean, I love this. You started saying brilliant and the term cheers. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, well, cheers is a great way to sign off at the end of something you communicate with them, like when you're typing. Cheers.
And you can't raise a glass, right?
Right. Right. In the U.S., that would mean cheers to skull.
Yeah. Skull.
A toast.
Skull.
A toast. We can toast our biscuits, but you wouldn't do that.
Or the cookies.
Yeah.
All right, final things. Look, some great comments from yours, Kath. So Phil, that's tonight's Apple TV sorted. Thanks, Kath Dawson. Ray has said, great resources. So look, it was worth that effort. And I'm not sure about this. I think Peter's got this wrong here, which is waves big flag for Kath Dawson, rose between many thorns.
I love Peter Lund. I love him.
Sure.
I think a big shout out to my buddy.
Shocking. And look, I'm gonna finish this by this with Andrew saying, look, really great show. Thanks to all. And just look, thanks to everybody. This was the first show. It's a bit sort of temperamental at the start from my side, so I hope you'll join me next time in 2 weeks' time. Guests to be announced on the film strip, but the special guest who will be joining us will be Grant Leboff, who is an author of now, I think, 3 or 4 best-selling books, all about digital marketing. I think Sticky Media, Sticky Marketing, Stickier Marketing are just 2 of them, which have always been in the top 10 for the business books. So he'll be joining us in 2 weeks' time, 5 o'clock on Wednesday. and that will be the 2nd of July. So I hope you guys will join me then. But thanks to you guys in the film strip. That's really appreciated.
Thank you.
Take
Pleasure
care.
to be.
Thank you.
For joining us. Cheers, guys. We'll sign off ever so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.